Welcome back to Kiwi Bred. Our equine health segment is brought to you by International Animal Health Products. Jayne Ivil went to the Manawatu to catch up with leading equine vet Tim Pearce.
Tim, on a daily basis you're dealing with horses that present with lameness. What do you do in your initial assessment when you're seeing these types of horses?
Actually, the first thing, often these horses aren't presented for lameness, they're often presented for poor performance. And they may be horses that aren't travelling straight, may have hung in a race, and trainers may well be a little bit suspicious that they're lame with very subtle problems. In those particular horses, we've really got to take a step back and put them on a situation where we can control their gait, trot them up and assess them on an even surface so we can try and see whether there's a particular limb that's affected. And so there are obvious things that certainly you will look for in a racehorse, and particularly with a given history. The main thing with this is not to go through anything and assume anything too much unless it's staring in the face, such as a major swelling in a leg, or perhaps in a worst case scenario a fracture. But in these sorts of horses where a lower level lameness is being seen, often there isn't any obvious swelling. So we like to go I personally start from the foot, and I'd never ever try and assume anything and make sure that every structure's examined. One of the really good reasons is that many horses will have more than one problem. So I think, to jump to any conclusions is dangerous. So it's very important you do have a system. What
sort of techniques are you using when you're diagnosing these problems?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to experience, but the first thing that I don't think you can ever underestimate is that horses that are lame, I think you must perform a physical examination, a clinical exam where you palpate all the structures that are important, starting with hoof testing, going through the hoof, around the pastern, to all the soft tissue structures in the bottom part of the limb, and palpate all the joints right up as far as the shoulder. And in some cases there may even be problems along the spine. So you've got to keep your mind very open, looking for swelling, pain and heat. Most equine veterinarians will have high quality ultrasound, digital radiography, thermography and these sorts of things. Certainly I think once you've identified an area of pain and you've got a suspicion of a diagnosis or a differentials, using these modes of imaging are very useful. And there are several clinics now that also have scintigraphy, which is nuclear scanning, which is extremely useful.
Once you have gone through your processes and actually diagnosed the problem, what's the step from there?
Well, I think it depends a lot on the individual. I mean, I think in New Zealand we're very fortunate that New Zealand trainers are very, very much I think in tune with their animals, and young animals that may have a developmental problem or a training problem where they're such as shin sore and things like that. Many trainers in New Zealand are very patient and they will normally back off them, so it may only be a matter of rest and perhaps adjusting the training program. The older horses and where there may be some degenerative pathologies such as knee chips and so on, and arthritis, or soft tissue injuries such as strained suspensories and things like that, there are some very good therapies these days, and I think certainly with all of that sort of, depending on the problem, I think we've got a lot to offer in terms of at the extreme margin, surgery if there may be a chip that's bothering an animal. Arthroscopy has been widely used and is very, very good to help solve those sorts of problems. We've got a lot of medications now that are useful in joints, and certainly the programs for rehabilitations, water walkers and walkers in general have helped rehabilitate these horses so they can get back to the track.
We look forward to hearing more from Tim throughout the duration of the series. Time now to find out what's been happening in Asia with New Zealand Bloodstock's Mike Kneebone.
Hi there and welcome to the second edition of Kiwi Bred Abroad, a show brought to you compliments of the Singapore Turf Club, who race from their Kranji base here every Friday and Sunday. On this week's show we'll be covering the Emirates Singapore Derby win of Chase Me, but before we do that we'll look at some great achievements from the Kiwi gallopers in Hong Kong over the past season.
And now Ambitious Dragon being called upon, and he quickly put pay to them in the Gold Cup. Ambitious Dragon raced away from Pure Champion, and he's got the double all wrapped up. Ambitious Dragon beats Extension and California Memory.
It's Little Bridge for Hong Kong, who leads the King Stand from bated breath. Soul Power trying to come home strongly for Ireland, but driven out towards the line. It's Little Bridge for Zach Burton. It's going to win for Danny Shum, the King Stand for Hong Kong.
Ivil one's the leader, a length and a half to Bowie Gold. Cityscape keeps coming. This has been a big effort. Ivil one in front of Cityscape. Extension late. Ivil one in front. Ivil one takes out the mile at 9 years of age. Ivil one staved off Cityscape.
Well, apart from Ambitious Dragon, it was a huge night for other Kiwi gallopers as well, and also for New Zealand Bloodstock, who for the second year running supplied the most stakes winners of any sales company in the world. It doesn't matter whether you say Derby or Derby, but the New Zealand breds certainly are the ones that take out most of the derbies around the world. In fact, 18 since 2010. And here in Singapore, since the first running in 1959, over 50% of the derby winners have been Kiwi bred. This week we feature Chase Me, who did a sensational job on the 15th of July in the Emirates Singapore Derby.
Chase Me races out by 5 lengths. Gingerbread Man running on hard is Deep Pockets. Arowana.com, silver on wings, but a one-act affair for Chase Me. He's going to annihilate them. Deep Pockets runs on into second, then Arowana.com, but Chase Me takes out the Emirates Singapore Derby by 8 lengths.
It was an amazing victory by the horse. You've come through one derby being placed with New Rosewood, but this really tops it off for you, right?
Definitely. Running second is nothing like winning, you know. So yeah, it means a lot to me, yes.
He's been an interesting horse, Chase Me. I know he's had his moments within the stable himself. Has he become easier to train as he's got older?
No, he's still very full of himself. Up till when he just turned 4, he was still very full of himself every time he goes out to the track. So it can be a little handful for the staff and for the rider sometimes.
He's probably still going to keep rolling on with racing, even though he's taken out the Derby well. He's had his races pretty well spread out. Would you look to keep him racing at the moment?
Yes, I think looking at him, he pulls up from the race pretty well, so I think we'll just keep him going and maybe run a couple more races with him and see.
That's it for this week. Thanks to the Singapore Turf Club for all their support. See you next time.